Oh, give me a second. Oh, my cat is like dragging me from the bottom. If you guys want to see her, just let me know. I think if you saw my post previously, somebody asked about what's the difference between keto and low carb. So if you are now watching my video, obviously you are interested, or you sort of have the knowledge, some idea about what is this keto and low carb. So basically keto is where you put your body into a state of ketosis, which means to say that keto, which comes from the word ketones. It's a fuel source in your body that your body would opt for when there is no glucose as energy. So what you guys already know, if you're on the standard American diet, or if you're eating a lot of carbs, rice, things like that, your body will convert it into glucose. So basically, most of us, our body is running on glucose as energy. So with the introduction of keto, it's to teach your body, okay, to run on its natural source, which is ketones. Ketones comes from fats, obviously. So it can be ingested as your dietary fats or using your own body fat to run as fuel. So being in ketosis means that your body is not running on glucose, but your body is running on ketones. Right? So which is why I don't like to call it diet, because it's more of a lifestyle. It's just a way of eating. It's the fact that ketones, when your body is not running on glucose, when you're not ingesting carbs, your mental clarity is there. So your brain function will be improved. It's between keto and low carb. Okay. I have tried keto for about like 6-7 years before I went carnivore. I would say that keto, there is this split which is very specific. You have to be like 70% fats, high fat. So meaning to say 70% of your diet needs to come mainly from fats. It's very fat focused, right? And then if I'm not mistaken, it's 5% protein and 5% carbs. What does that 5% carbs means is that for someone that is doing keto, your carbs for the day, it needs to be 20 grams and below. Insulin, like what is this, So insulin is something in your body that, it gets triggered when you ingest high carbs or sugar. Having high insulin means that your blood sugar is going up and down. You will never be satisfied with your meal. Your mood is always going up and down, So like I mentioned just now, you definitely have blood sugar issues if after you have a meal, you feel hungry afterwards, and then you feel like you're going to crash. We are not supposed to feel that way, right? So that's the idea of it. The question that I got was, do you need to count calories on keto? Calories, it's all about calories, something that, you can never run away from. For my experience, yes and no. I know you're gonna hate that answer, but to me, I feel like it's logical to think energy in this sense. Energy in, energy out, okay? Because when you have extra energy, right, it needs to be stored. It needs to be used somewhere. But when you eat carbs, it messes around with your insulin. So once again, it's your hormone. So as much as you can look at calories, right, it's not just the end-all, be-all to track. I guess the person that's asking this probably is wondering about weight loss. I would say that calories still matter, but your hormone plays a very big part. So it depends what kind of calories are you consuming. If you're doing keto, remember your macros, which is your 70-25-5. See? Now you're thinking, oh my gosh, this 70-25-5, it sounds so complicated. Why does diet has to be so complicated? You're not going to stick to it. I would say that if you really want something, try and give it your best and at least experience it to fully know that if this is sustainable for you. I would say that I sustained being on keto for many years is because my personality is the kind that will go all in, all out, or nothing. But I've eventually switched to carnivore because I've adapted really well, and I don't really have a certain macro like how much protein I eat. Oh, actually I do. I always have a minimum, at least, 100 grams of protein every day. That is my rule, right? But when it comes to fats, it's not something that I would track. So you can do research prioritizing protein, which is from this Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She's only one of them that is speaking about the importance of protein, but you should have at least 2.2 grams. Let me see if I got it written there. 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram. So for myself and my weight, I would need at least 100 grams of protein. At least have this, have most of your protein at your first meal, because that is going to affect how you feel for the rest of the day. The question here, how long does your body takes to adjust for keto dieting? Okay, so it depends where you're coming from. If you're first time like doing low to no carbs, I would say that at least 2 weeks. I know people that they are in my life that they also wanted to try keto, so I was guiding them along, and I could see that they take about average like 2 weeks. But I would say during the first 5 days you will be suffering. But it can be minimized if you have your electrolytes, you are taking enough salt. I think the cleaner you go, the easier, the faster it is for you to adapt. So I would say 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm trying to change my diet and trying to find the best alternative. I tried not eating after 8 p.m. but I got really hungry in the morning the next day. Okay, this is normal, but perhaps you didn't eat enough. Perhaps the food sources that you are consuming before 8 p.m. it's not of quality. Maybe it's not the right one, so it might have triggered you to feel hungry in the morning. I would suggest this. How about you can start this again, but make sure that in that day, right, because obviously you want to fast the next day. I think this is what you're trying to ask me. So maybe just make sure that your weight, right, so meaning what is your body weight right now in kg, right, and then you times 22 grams, right, 2.2, right? So for example, if it's me, 48, I'm 48 kg, and then times 2.2 grams, it's about 100 grams of protein. It's like my minimum to have. So what is 100 grams of protein? Oh my gosh, I'm talking so much numbers right now. If my mom is watching, she'll be laughing because she knows that my maths sucks. So okay, so 100 grams of protein, which is on a steak, right? A beef steak, is about 25 grams. Target on eating your minimum requirement of protein, which is from animal source, so it has to be meat, right? Then also make sure if you are doing low carb that your fats are not too low. Usually if your protein is lower and your fats is lower, that's the time when you feel like your fasting doesn't last the next day. Usually that's the case. And also if you're attempting to fast in that morning, you're not drinking enough water and you're drinking a lot of tea, it can trigger it too. Maybe when you feel like you're fasting in that morning and you feel like, oh, I'm starting to feel hungry, I'm starting to get dizzy, that one trick that I always have is having salt next to you. So whenever I feel that dizziness a little bit, usually it's because your electrolyte is not balanced, which is normal. It's nothing harmful. So because when you're doing low carb, your body is dumping a lot of electrolytes. So just, take a pinch of salt. You will feel that it is much better after that. You'll be able to last longer. So maybe try that out and let me know if it works. I hope it will help you. Consume caffeine. I love and hate this question. I say caffeine is not carnivore, it's not from an animal. I do drink caffeine, but not coffee. I used to be a heavy coffee drinker. it didn't work well for me when I hit the age of 30 years old, because I start to feel like drinking a lot of coffee makes me not just very anxious, but like in the beginning it was like, ooh, there's so much energy, you can work out, you can do a lot, but then you get drained very easily, and then at night I realized that my sleep gets disturbed. Like I will wake up in the middle of the night, I won't be able to fall asleep. Like when I'm supposed to be sleeping, I don't sleep. So I don't do coffee anymore, but I'm doing green tea, which is a lot better for you because there's more antioxidants. But it's still a debate, though. Like a massive bowl of like salad, I will feel so bloated and uncomfortable. Like I feel full, but not in a nice way. You just feel very uneasy and you're bloated because it's all the fiber. And then there was this debate that fiber is not important, which is true because I did very well without fiber for 2 years. My digestion has never been better. I never get bloated, so I don't focus anything on fiber. But I would say that in this month, I did experiment with avocado. There is a little bit of fiber in there. The reason why I experimented with avocado is because I know that avocado is very high in potassium. It's one of the best source of potassium. So what does potassium do is obviously, helps with muscle cramp. I exercise a lot, and it does help with satiety, meaning to say you feel full very easily. So there are some times that I'm so busy, I need to only eat very little, right, to feel full. I cannot eat like a giant massive plate of like 3 to 4 steaks, which I can do, but I have no time for that. So sometimes I would try to put a little bit of avocado for that. And I actually like the taste of avocado, which is very strange. Yeah. So far, no bad effects, because you guys must be wondering, wow, you're starting to introduce a lot of non-carnivore food into your life. Like I said, I'm not planning to stay strict carnivore forever. I want to be able to be so healthy in a sense that my body is able to digest or work around with the things that I throw into it, but in a very strategic way, right? Okay, so what's your opinion or advice on weighing food? It can be a little bit dangerous, but I would say that I am somebody that likes to track. I like to measure things. I like to know where I'm at exactly. I know that sounds a bit scary, but that's how I function. So when I first started doing dieting, keto, I've obviously, whatever that you read, right, it's all about like your calories, how much carbs you're consuming, how much protein you're consuming. So it's natural that you track. So I was a fan of things like apps like FitnessPal. I'm still using Chronometer right now, which is similar to FitnessPal. It just basically tells you like what are your calories intake as a whole, but I don't look at it for calories perspective. I track it for the purpose of knowing that I have ingested or consumed my minimum amount of protein for the day. For me, protein is priority because ever since I went full on into making sure that I eat enough protein every day, I will split it into 2 meals, but usually my first meal is always about 50 grams. So that would sound like 200 grams of steak, which is pretty average size. Sometimes I eat even more if I'm exercising. I notice that I don't go on the day thinking, oh, when's my next meal? I'm really hungry for some snack. No. The moment I prioritize my protein, I feel so much better. I can function properly. My mood is better. What else? Body composition wise, I know a lot of people are very afraid, like, oh my gosh, doing carnivore, eat a lot of protein and fats, I'm going to gain a lot of weight. I think it depends where you're coming from and how you approach it. I think it's giving me the body composition that I want, that is fit and healthy. So protein, meaning to say weighing my protein, knowing what's my protein intake, it's important. But my advice to you is don't go crazy on weighing. If it's your first time, I think it's helpful to know how much you're eating on an average, and then depending on your goal, you can tweak it from there. I think it's a lot of times, right, people say like don't track because it will make you go crazy, but sometimes we overestimate and underestimate things. So it's good that you track it for a little bit in the beginning to kind of see where you're at. When I go out, obviously I don't bring my weighing scale with me, you know, the food scale. That will be, actually that is quite normal for me to do. But I've never done that. But you know, like for example, later I'm going to have a giant meat buffet, yakiniku, which is where, you know, you fry up all the meat on your own. I don't track, but I have a sense of how much I'm eating, how many grams is that, and the calories. Because I've been doing it so much in the beginning, I kind of train myself to be able to gauge, oh, this size of cheese or meat is how many grams of protein and what are the calories. So, but I would say don't go crazy on it, just in the beginning, and then slowly, you know, use your intuition. Okay, so people are saying that carnivore is expensive, you know, eating a lot of meat is expensive. How do you do carnivore diet on a low budget? I've changed my perspective. I know in the past that I was preaching a lot about eating only high quality grass-fed meat, which is very expensive in some countries. If you don't know your butcher, you don't know how to ask them for, you know, some of the fat trimmings, because usually when you go to a butcher, right, they will trim off all the fats. You can actually get them for free if you tend to buy in a very cheap cost those trimmed off unwanted cuts of fats or beef. So that's one way. But even if it's grain fed, you're not sure that it's grass fed. There are a lot of videos out there put out by all these doctors and experts saying that even those grain fed beef, most people are worried because of the hormones that are in there. Those grain fed beef might have those hormones, but when it's already being chopped up to be sold as, you know, in the supermarket, they go through a certain like test to see the traceable amount of hormones that are still there. So anything that's being sold in the supermarket, it's considered still safe. And honestly speaking, I have done both grain-fed and grass-fed meat. It's not a big difference. If you cannot afford grass-fed meat, eating just grain-fed, even lamb or chicken, anything that it's meat, right, that it's not processed, okay? So not things like sausages that has other weird ingredients that you cannot pronounce, okay? So unprocessed meat is still healthier than trying to go for your bread and pasta. That's the whole idea of it. You can do a lot with minced beef actually. If you go to the supermarket, usually the minced beef, because it's parts of the beef that comes from everywhere. It's not like your ribeye, your sirloin steak. Those are prime cuts that are very expensive. So go for minced beef. So yeah, I hope that I gave you some quick tips on how to do carnivore on a lower budget. I think those are all the things that I wanted to cover today. Thank you for all your questions and showing your interest. I would say that I was quite surprised with the first video that I put out about my experience doing carnivore. It was mostly about carnivore, answering random questions from you guys as well. I got quite a few shares from it, and a few comments that, you know, people wish that I would do more of this topic. So I'm glad that I'm just not just talking about fashion. I'm glad that people are also interested in something else that I'm passionate about. So yeah, I gotta go. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And thank you for asking all these questions. I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.